Om Shri Sai Ram. Sai Ram, brothers and sisters, welcome to the 15th edition of Samarpan program here at Sarvadharma Service Center in Farmingdale Borough, Howell Township, New Jersey, United States, on this inaugural month of the year 2023. Today, I have the honor to introduce our Samarpan speaker for the month, Sri P.K.Prabhakar, who has consented to speak to us on an extremely short notice, and we deeply appreciate his acceptance of such literally a last-minute invitation. Sri Prabhakar comes from a family which has been associated with Swami since late 1940s. He himself had his first interaction with Swami in 1948, when Swami was about 22 years old, just to give a perspective, in his great-grandmother's house in Bangalore. Since then, he was greatly blessed to have many interviews, and darshans of Swami throughout the years. Education-wise, Sri Prabhakar has a bachelor's degree from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, completed his master's and doctoral work in aerospace engineering from University of Cincinnati, and earned his master's in business administration degree from Temple University. Professionally, he has worked in Bell Labs and AT&T for over 30 years. He has held several positions, including systems engineer, district manager, director, and managing director in the Department of International Strategy. He has taught graduate courses in Temple and Widener universities. On the Sai front, in the United States, he has a very long history in this part of the country. He was a founding member of the original Cherry Hill Satya Sai Center, founded in 1976 along with Mr. and Mrs. Giri Shankar, for which Mrs. Giri Shankar obtained Swami's permission and blessings. And as we know, many of our members here are also from Cherry Hill Center as well. He served as the president of Medford Sai Center for many years. For us, he's a very special brother, as he was involved in the initial work of founding the Sarvadharma Service Center, which you see today, which he was involved since 1989. And the result of the efforts of brothers and sisters like him is there for all of us to see. And as you all can attest, is continuing to grow with Swami's grace. He has been teaching Balavikas classes for several years at all levels. Sri P. Swaminathan and he compiled Swami's sayings on Namasmarana and presented to Swami in the 1990s. Swami blessed this effort, and the book was distributed throughout the bookstore at Prashantinilayam. He was initiated into transcendental meditation in 1973. However, it was evolved into a technique taught by Swami over the years. He has taught meditation techniques to individuals and groups. He is also a Reiki master. With this, I would like to invite Brother Prabhakar to the podium and request him to share with us his experience with Swami for the next 70 minutes or so. Welcome, Brother Prabhakar. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. First, my humble pranams at Swami's lotus feet. First, thank you, Sai Barade, for that introduction. Whatever little work I did for the Sarvadharma Service Center is minuscule. I think the amount of work that all of you have put in is just tremendous, and I'm so happy to be back here again among all our friends. It's very nice to see all of you again, and it's a pleasure to be back here in Sarvadharma Service Center. And to be speaking about Swami is doubly a pleasure, And I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, because it gave me a chance, of course, to talk about Swami here, but it made me recollect all the interactions that I was fortunate to have had with Swami. And each time you recollect, whatever goes on in your mind, it's actually real, in the sense that you have the same feelings and you feel like you're there and Swami is present with you. So thank you all for that. I'm sure all of you, just like I have, all of you have had all kinds of interactions with Swami, and I'm no exception. I just happen to be speaking here today, that's all. Is there any particular theme on which you want me to talk? If there's any interest, area of interest, just please let me know, okay? Even as I proceed. So let me start at the beginning, okay? The first time that I happened to have had darshan of Swami was again as Sai Barada mentioned, in my great grandmother's house. Her name was Namagiri Amma, and she stayed in a large house on a huge compound in Bangalore, on what is now known as it's Baswanagudi. The name of the area was called Baswanagudi on North Road. It's right at the intersection of Shankarmat Road and North Road. And we also lived in Baswanagudi. And Swami used to visit her and stay with her, and whenever Swami came to my great grandmother's house, my mother was requested. She was my mother's grandmother, so she was requested to bring rice from our house, because we used to get rice from our village, Purigali, and it was considered rice of very good quality. So my mother not only would take the rice, and she would also do some cooking. And in fact, there was an atrium inside the house, and people would be sitting and eating there. And Swami would be supervising the eating of people. Now, when I had this interaction with him, my sister and I were together. And we had sort of entered the house, and there were steps coming down from the stairs, and Swami came down. And I must have been crying. I don't know. I was about 4 years old at that time. And he asked me, "Oh, are you crying because of my hair?" And then he materialized some vibhuti and then applied it to my forehead. And it's funny, the kind of things you remember. This is one thing that I remember. It's like 75 years ago now. Normally, Swami, when he materialized Vibhuti, he does things like this. But I remember it as he's doing it like this. And he applied it to my sister and me. My sister was running a fever at that time, and he materialized an orange, and he gave it to her at that time. Now that's the part that I remember of my first personal interaction with him. Now, when Swami used to stay there, we used to also spend a lot of time in my great grandmother's house. There was a room upstairs that Swami was dedicated to Swami. And many a time, Swami that room would be locked, even though Swami was inside. And we were simply not allowed to go anywhere near that room. And a day later, Swami would emerge from that room, and he would have said that he had gone somewhere to help somebody. He would have literally left his body and gone somewhere at that time. And also there was Of course, at that time we didn't know, but now when I recollect that thing, this is my conclusion. He must have left his body and gone at that time to help somebody. Now it was, as I mentioned, it's a fairly large house. There were two houses in that compound, and they had a huge veranda outside. And Swami used to give public darshans from that veranda at that time. This is in the time of 1948, 1949. So that was the main thing around that I can remember around the first interaction time in that house. Now, my great grandmother, she lived with. She has 4 children. She had 4 children. The oldest one was her name was Lakshmi Bai. She is also known as Rani of Chincholi among Swami's followers. She's quite well known. The second one was Kamala Bai, which is my grandmother. Then there was Raja Mam and Sita Mam. Now, Rani Lakshmi Bai, she lived in Hyderabad. My grandmother, my grandfather was a judge, so he was all over the Karnataka state. Rajama was widowed. She had 2 children, 3 children, Yamuna, Manjula, and Krishnaswamy. The reason I'm mentioning all the names is because it becomes relevant when I go with some of the stories. Now, Rajama was devoted to Shirdi Sai Baba, and Krishna Swami, her son, was also devoted to Shirdi Sai Baba. And one of his big wishes was to go to Shirdi. And when he was, I don't know what age he was probably around 16. I think he's about older than me, so he might have been about. He went to Shirdi. And there he happened to have, he was lucky to have the darshan of Abdullah Baba. Now, I don't know if any of you remember from Sai Satcharita, Abdullah Baba was a contemporary of Shirdi Sai Baba. Mahesh, maybe you can, there you are. Okay, that is Abdullah Baba. He looks a lot like Shirdi Sai Baba. Now, he met him, and Abdullah Baba told him, and he was very close to Shirdi Sai Baba, and he had the ability to communicate with Shirdi Sai Baba. And he told Krishna Swami, we used to call him Swami Mama, that you will have darshan of Shirdi Baba. Shirdi Baba has now taken a form as Satya Sai Baba. When you go back, you'll have a darshan of him. Now, meanwhile, in Bangalore, Sitama and Rajama knew Coffee Works Sakama. Those many people know Coffee Works Sakama, who was a devotee of, he was a well-known devotee of Swami. So whenever Swami came to Sakama's house, they would invite them, and they would have Swami's darshan and so on. And once Swami invited them to go to Puttaparthi. So they had all gone to Puttaparthi. And of course, Swami was waiting for them on the other side of Chitravalti River. And there, they were all fairly strict Madhva Brahmins. So their concern was, what will they eat and where will they eat it? And who will be cooking the food and so on. At Swami, the moment he met them, he said, look, I'm giving you the kitchen, you can do the cooking yourself. So he solved that problem. And, you know, they say, after that, they made many trips to Puttaparthi, and Swami gave them many talismans, the mantra, the things written with mantra and so on, partly because they were basically, three women living alone in a huge house in Bangalore. And that was the time of the partition. And there was a lot of Hindu-Muslim tension going on in that whole area. Bangalore also had a fairly large population of both communities. And at one point, he asked them to bring the older daughter as well, the Rani Lakshmi Bai. So one day they took Lakshmi Bai also to Puttaparthi, and Swami started talking to her and said, look, your husband was a big devotee of mine. I have visited your palace in Chincholi many times. And he described the palace and all the renovations that were made in the palace. There was a margosa tree here. You removed it because of the renovations. And I had given you an Anjaneya, the Raja Sahab, an Anjaneya Murti. And, it is kept there and so on. Although Prabhakar, that's my grandmother's sister, she didn't know about the Anjaneya. Later on, when she opened up a new section of that palace to clean it and so on, they found not only the Anjaneya Murti, but they also found a cart which Swami had said that he had used in the previous body to visit Chincholi. And also, and this part I remember very well, because I heard Prabhakar telling my mother that in that section of the palace, she found this kamandlu, and a snake was coiled around it. And she went and did aarti and with camphor and put some milk, and then the snake slithered away. And in the kamandlu, there was an inscribed Sa Ba on top of it, Sai Baba kind of thing. And then she kept it, and also the card she presented to Swami. She brought the kamandlu, and as soon as she came to Puttaparthi, Swami took it from her and said, I'll keep it. And many years later, when they had one of the yagyas in Puttaparthi, they used it as a kalasha, apparently. So there was this Shirdi Parthi connection was kind of made explicit by Swami in this. Many of these kinds of stories, and experiences of family. Mahesh, can you put up that picture, the family picture? Yeah, can you scroll it down a little bit? Can you scroll it down? No, you can't. Okay. I just wanted to show you the picture. The one sitting right of Swami is Namagiri Amma, that is my great-grandmother. The one sitting left of Swami is Lakshmi Bai. The one at the extreme right is, I forget her name for the moment. No, I think it's Namagiri Purnaya, Purnaya, Nagamani Purnaya. Yeah. And then the one on the extreme left is Padma, who is Lakshmi Bai's daughter. The one standing on the left is Yamuna, and Krishna Swami is the third from the left. Now, Yamuna is the only one who is still alive. Yamuna and Yamuna Rangarao. Rangarao was the president of Andhra Samiti for quite a few years. They've been very active in Swami's organization in Andhra Pradesh. Now, that is one part. That is Shirdi to Patti. You know, if you read many of these books, even in Satyam Shivam Sundaram or Shakuntala Balu's book or Love is My Form, there's always a chapter on Shirdi to Patti, and they would write some of these stories. You know, these stories you'll find in those books. Now, in the early days, Swami was so accessible. It was, particularly with my great-grandmother, she used to come and close her eyes from behind and say, "Guess who this is?" You know, those kind of like children's play. And he used to be always walk into the kitchen and what are you cooking? You know, these kind of things. He would address her as Devagiri for some reason. Her name was Namagiri, but he would address her as Devagiri. And when he went to the Himalayas, Badrinath and so on, he said, "Don't be sad that you're not able to come with me. I'll write you a letter every day." And sure, he wrote her a letter every day describing what he did that day, you know, in spite of all his busy routine in the Himalayas. So that affection and that love, of course, Swami has been consistent right from the time, I guess he announced himself or even before that. And to this day, it's one gets lost in trying to describe him. That's all I can say. Now, having talked about the connection to Shirdi Sai, let me talk about another story, again associated with this is my mother's cousin. Her name is Manjula. Again, she's Yamuna's sister, Rajama's daughter. Rajama and Sitama stayed in Puttaparthi for a long time until they were nearly, Rajama, I think, passed away in Puttaparthi, and Sitama until she was almost late 80s or early 90s. Then she moved to Hyderabad. We have seen Swami do all kinds of miracles. He has brought people from the dead. He's brought people from the dead even after they're being cremated. He's contracted time for some people. He has cured the sick. He had made lame walk. He had made people who are dumb speak. Those who are blind see. He's done all kinds of things. But you haven't heard too many instances where he has granted moksha. Right? Now, this is one rare instance. Can you put up Munnu's picture? There she is. Okay. Munnu, she was 9 years old, and at that time, normally, when they went to Puttaparthi, Actually, Yamuna used to carry Yamuna, which is her older sister, used to carry Swami's slippers. Now, on that particular day, Munnu said, no, I'm going to carry the slippers. And she carried Swami's slippers. And Swami asked her, what do you want? Bhakti, Shakti, Bhukti, or Mukti? And she said, Swami, Mukti. And Swami said, you're very young, you're only 9 years old. If you get Mukti, how will you meet your mother? You'll be away from all the people you love. She said, no, Swami, you'll show me. And then Swami kept quiet and said, Ayo Papa Rajama, be happy for a week. And then, they finished their stay, and then they came back to Bangalore. The schools were starting, the summer holidays were over, the schools were starting. Papu is Yamuna and Munnu, they were going to go to school. And Munnu said, no, I'm not feeling well, I don't want to go. She got a nice scolding from her mother saying, you're just malingering, he's saying you don't want to go to school just because you're lazy. And before she could say anything, she started throwing up. And she said, yeah, okay, stay home. And before that, she threw up again. And within 1 hour, she's gone. Completely gone. I remember that time when she was gone. She used to be a playmate of my sister, and they used to almost meet every day. It seems that Swami at that time told people around him that Munnu has reached me. She asked for mukti, and I gave it to her. That was her karma. She had to reach mukti at that time, and I gave it to her. And then the next day, when he came to Bangalore, and he called Rajama, and he explained that she was with him, and he had granted her moksha. So that was the story of Munnu. That is one case where I've heard that actually Swami granted mukti and said that he had actually given mukti, publicly acknowledged it. I mean, she must have done a lot of sadhana in her previous life, I think, to have reached that point and to be able to even say all the words that she used and to ask for that thing. I don't know what I would say if Swami asked me, what do you want? Oh, there's another thing that I forgot to mention with respect to Shirdi Baba. It's almost like a fairy tale, some of these things. If you hear about it in any other context, it would be like a fairy tale. I mentioned that my great-grandmother lived in Bangalore, and there was a lot of, it was around partition, and there was a lot of tension. There was also something called the Razakar movement. Krishnamurti might know about it, the Hyderabad thing, right? They were very, there was a lot of tension there because of Razakar movement. And 3 women living alone in this huge house, they were always afraid. And my great-grandmother was no exception. And she, at that time, they had not yet met Swami. That time, the only person she prayed to was Shirdi Sai Baba. She prayed to him, and lo and behold, there was a knock on the door. And who was there but Shirdi Sai Baba? And he had this kamandalu in his hands, and he put water all around the house, and he said, as long as you don't cross this line, you'll be okay. And then disappeared. And of course, they were, after that they felt secure. But this is the kind of thing that Swami has done, announcing his presence in many different ways, right? And he hasn't stopped doing it. I can attest to that for sure. I've for whatever reason, many of you have had the same privilege, I'm sure. I've had the good fortune of having multiple interviews with Swami when I was younger. It was possibly mostly because of my father. I used to tag along with the family. And I just wanted to tell you a few of those interviews, talk about a few of those interviews, which will reveal Swami's, some of the facets of Swami, right? I mean, it's Swami is such a great, vast being that any chance he gives us is out of his compassion and out of his own grace. There's nothing to do with us. One time, I'd gone from Madras to Mysore, where my parents were living in Mysore at that time, and my father was going to Puttaparthi. He used to go to Puttaparthi on a regular basis, and I went with him, and just as the taxi had come in front of the house, and just as we were getting into the taxi, my mother walked up to my father and said, don't be in a hurry, ask Swami everything in detail, And my father, yes, I'll ask everything in detail, right? So we went, and of course, after some time, Swami called us for an interview. He talked to my father, and whatever my father wanted to ask him. Usually, he would ask him about his promotion or transfer or something like that. Very, very ordinary things, right? And just as he was coming out, Swami. I should mention what Swami does in the interview, but maybe I'll talk about it a little later. Anyway, as we are coming out, Swami, how he does. He opens the door and lets you walk out. And as we are walking out, Swami tells my father, "Tell your wife that I've told you everything in detail." Right? So it's like he has this omniscience, right? Whatever is going on in Mysore, obviously he knows what is going on here. So that was one facet of Swami that was, in some way it's very, very funny that TK, and I'm sure you all had these kind of experiences with Swami. Now, the second one is a little more, I would say, at least it affected my life a lot more. Whatever Swami says comes true. Although at that time, it may not look like, it may seem like, what is he talking about? And this is how it happened to me. This was in 1965, because I remember it very clearly. Myself and my friend, we were in Puttaparthi. At that time, Lal Bahadur Shastri passed away in Tashkent. Swami called both of us for an interview, and when he saw us separately. Now, to me, he said, "Oh, you want to get married to a girl of your choice, and your parents are looking for a girl for you. Don't worry, Swami will take care of it." Now, when I came out of the interview room, I said, "What's he talking about?" Right? I was 20 years old at that time. And in IIT Madras, I don't know, those who have seen IIT Madras, there's only like deer sanctuary all around. There are no girls anywhere in sight. There may be some now, I don't know. But at the time I was studying, there's absolutely nobody. I said, "What is he talking about?" And I thought, he's just a psychologist. I must be looking older than my age. And he's this is a common thing most people do. So, there is he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? This is 1965. In 1970, exactly the same thing happened. Right? I was studying in the US, had already met my wife, and we had decided to get married. I had informed my parents, had gone to India. And of course, anything like this, marriage, or anything. So we would go troop to Swami, and we went to Swami. And of course, for Swami, the fact that religion and country didn't make any difference. But, the fact that my wife was a Parsi and a Pakistani, it made a difference to my parents, but it didn't make a difference to Swami. But his practical question was, "What are you going to do about visa?" I said, "Swami, I don't know." He said, "Okay, don't worry, I'll take care of it." Right? So it's like that. He's very practical, So I think Swami's words always come true, although at that time it may not look like it's true, or it's possible, right? So it's very never underestimate Swami. That's what I feel. Now, there is another interview. I think the effect of that interview, I must say this effect of this thing was long-lasting. Obviously, marriage is long-lasting. Rufina had not heard of Swami before. Only through me she heard of Swami. And it's almost afraid, right? It's somebody you don't know, and I believe so much in him. And it took her a while, even when we started the center, when Amrita was born. Amrita and I used to go to Giri and Saroja's house and have bhajans. And even when we had our first bhajan, I don't think she was that much into it. But it was Swami who made it possible and made her a part of the center. And now she's the backbone of the center, if I may say so. Without Rubina, there would be no center, I don't think. So Swami kept to his word. He said, "I'll take care," and he took care. There are many other ways in which he has taken care. It's about 12 o'clock now. Is there more time, Sai? Okay. Now, before I left for this country, I came to this country in 1967. Again, as usual, we used to go to Swami before any major thing. So I went to Swami, and this is when he gave me an. Okay, let me mention this also. At this, most people may not know about this. Swami used to observe all this Navami and things like that. We had booked a ticket. I was coming with my sister, and we had booked a ticket on a particular date. I don't remember the date. It happened to be a Navami. And Swami says, "Why are you going on Navami?" I said, "Swami, my sister, she had come from the States. She was going back, and, we're going back together. And she was also taking somebody else with her." She says, no, cancel that date. Go on another date. So Swami was an observer of these kinds of things, right? I didn't know that. So I came back and told my parents, and we did something to alleviate it. So that is one part of it, that is so concerned about the date on which you leave you take a journey. Then he told me, he said, when you have a bath, repeat Gayatri at least 3 times, the Gayatri mantra. And I'm mentioning this partly because I think, in a sense, it had a longer impact, because every Balvika student that I taught, I told them this, and many of them are doing it. They're repeating the Gayatri mantra when they have the bath, at least 3 times. So that was one thing. Now, the second thing was, I had asked him for a picture, because a couple of months earlier we had come with my sister, and Swami had materialized a picture for her and given it to her. So I said, "Swami, I want your picture." He said, "Okay, you wait outside, I'll call you." And then he called me in after some time. And he materialized the picture and gave it to me. He didn't talk to me at that time, but he made me stand next to a Samiti member. And he gave him a lot of advice about how to run a center, how to run a Samiti. And he says, there will be a lot of politics, but think that you're working for me. In Kannada, he said, even others might be able to understand. Think of it as Swami Karya and do it, Then he said one thing, Manava Seveye, Madhava Seve. Service to God, man is service to God. And somehow that stuck, and I think that is one of the things that is sort of, to some extent, to a very little extent, have been able to follow and initiate some programs in our center for seva and so on. So that is the other impact it had. Now it's Sai, how much more time do I have? 20 minutes? Oh, okay, good, okay. Now I have to, I'll show you this picture that he materialized for me. Fortunately, it's still with me. It shows a young Swami, and it's got his address and everything on it. Now I have to tell you, I can only call it a miracle. I have to, I'll tell you a story about this. Every alternate Saturday, second and fourth Saturday, we used to go to Philadelphia to distribute sandwiches and donuts and coffee to the homeless. on 20th Street in Philadelphia. And, we used to park cars and they would line up and we would distribute the sandwiches. Now I parked my car and I took out my wallet to pay the meter there, the parking meter. By the time somebody came and asked me something, so I put my wallet down on the back seat. And I forgot all about it. So, we got involved in the distribution and everything. We came home. Now, normally, my practice was, I come up the stairs and when I entered my bedroom, on the right side, there is a dresser. And in the far corner, there is a picture of Swami with his feet at the... Now, my normal practice is, I'll take out whatever is in my pocket, put it on the dresser, walk up to Swami's feet, a picture, touch his feet, and then do whatever else I have to do. I put my hands in my pocket to put it there. My wallet is not there, right? I don't know, I don't know what whether you've experienced feelings like this. Credit cards I can get, money I can replace, your health insurance cards you can get, Medicare card you can replace. But the picture that Swami is given, where am I going to replace it from? I put my hands like this and stood there with just not knowing what to do, right? Like totally out of my mind. I stood there for like 2 or 3 minutes, didn't know what to do. And then, again, out of habit, just walked up to Swami's feet, touched his feet, and turned here. There's a bedside table. My wallet is lying there on my bedside table. So Swami restored that wallet for me. I tell you. So even now when I think of it, my God, it's like my hair stands on an end. So that is, another instance of Swami being with you all the time. He's, in fact, at one time on Shivratri, they, I watched the Lingodbhavam, and then I was walking around in Parthi. Suddenly there was a voice in my head which says, I'm always with you. I'm always with you. And then I'm carrying on a conversation in my mind saying, everywhere, Swami? Yes, everywhere. Even in America? Yes, even in America. So this whole conversation took place, and he's been true to his word, And I have to tell you this is another miracle. I can go on. There's a whole list that I can go on. I always wanted to go back to India. Ever since I came to this country, I wanted to go back to India. So finally, in 1984, I did go back to India. Bag and baggage, all my furniture, all my belongings were shipped. We rented the house, and I had a job in Hindustan Petroleum. And we went back. I was staying for a while in the guest house there in Hindustan Petroleum Refinery. Then after a while, when Rupina and all came, I was staying with my sister in Khar, Bombay. My usual habit was I would go to the refinery and take a taxi from the refinery to Khar, where my sister lived. Once I had taken all of them, my wife and children, to show them the refinery, you know. And, normally I took a briefcase to work. I put that briefcase in the dicky of the taxi. And then we came, and in car, Bombay, all high-rise buildings. And we stopped in front of my sister's apartment. We got down, and then we went up. She lived on the second floor. Forgot all about the briefcase. Then my sister asked me for something. I said, no, yeah, okay, I'll show you something. And then I tried to get to the briefcase. No briefcase. This was in 1984. All taxis in Bombay were all Fiats. They all looked exactly alike. I didn't have any number or anything like that. The briefcase had all our passports, our children's passports, mine and my wife's passport, all the cash I had, Indian cash, all the traveler's checks. At that time, it was traveler's checks. Bill of lading. I'd shipped all my goods. Bill of lading for the shipping company. Everything. I mean, it's. I was just out of my mind again, right? I come down the stairs and then just ask my brother-in-law, what shall I do? He says, I don't know. You don't know the plate number. What are you going to do? This like thousands of taxis which look alike. My brother-in-law, his brother-in-law lived across. He was a native of Bombay. We asked him. He said, I'll call the Taxi Drivers Association. I called the Taxi Drivers Association. Of course, he asked me, what is the plate number? Yeah, I don't know the plate number. Then my sister said, Prabhakar, I don't know what to do. I'm going to light a light in front of Swami. That's all I know, right? And believe it or not, within 5 minutes, a taxi walks in, drives in, and the driver gets out and he's looking around. Because he knew the building, but he didn't know which apartment. Then I went to, he saw me and said, oh, sir, your briefcase. And he gave me the briefcase. There was nothing missing. I had a bunch of 500 rupee notes in that thing. I took it out and gave it to him. He said, no, sir, this is, and then he gave me the briefcase. If it's not Swami, I don't know what else this is. So there is just, I'll give you another. Is there time left, right? So I can go on. Swami had said, I'll take care to my parents, See, my parents were not there at our wedding. And Swami was in the Whitefield on that day when we got married. So my parents had taken a garland and everything and gone to Swami. And Swami had blessed both of them. And then he said, don't worry, I'll take care. Now, when Swami says those things, it's we take it very lightly, but he says it for some reason. Now, we got married in 1971. We lived in Ann Arbor. We got married in Cincinnati, but we lived in Ann Arbor. We moved to Ann Arbor. And my sister lived in Ithaca in New York. My brother-in-law was teaching there in Cornell. So first Thanksgiving, we thought we'll go to my sister's place. I was driving a VW at that time, the small VW Beetle. We left around 8 o'clock or something in the evening on Thanksgiving, Wednesday evening. And we passed Toledo, then you have to pass Cleveland. Towards Cleveland, there is the Cuyahoga River, right? And there is a long bridge. This was around 11 o'clock in the night. The car started moving slightly this way, that way, and then I'm trying to control it. I'm pumping the brakes and so on. Pumping the brakes didn't work. It is for whatever reason, it's a rear engine car. It just started going like this, and then it was a 4-lane highway, 2 lanes this way, 2 lanes that way. The car was going perpendicular to the highway, going towards the guardrail at a high speed. I said, this is it, right? There's simply no way that I could stop it. And I thought to myself, how will people at home know? Right? I thought, these are the thoughts that are going on. This is presumably the last moments of your life. Oh, they'll look at my wallet and maybe they'll find out some address and inform them. I thought for sure we were going into the gorge. But at that time, there was something that came and hit the car. It was a force, a strong force that turned the car around and moved it to the median, and it stalled in the median. I can feel that force even now. It's like it's at that height of, that was on the passenger side. I was driving on this side. It was on the passenger side at the window level. Some force, I don't know what other force it could be, I don't know. It had to be Swami. Turned the car around and it stalled in the median. And I'm here to living to tell you the day. Of course, Krishnamurti and Hanumantrao know other times when that happened, that kind of thing happened. And I'm, lucky to have be alive now. So, there was one other time, 3 times Swami saved my life like this. One other time, I thought actually Swami was with me. It was I won't go too much into the depth of it, but this was in Bangalore. I was in an accident, and actually it was such an accident where my flesh had come out from my legs and so on. But there was a gentleman there who was there with me all the time, telling me, this is all past life karma. It's all gone now. Don't worry. And as long as he was with me, I didn't feel any pain. I felt like a peace that I have never felt before or after. It's a kind of a peace like where your mind is still and you're totally at peace. It was that kind of a thing. And I could, my concern was more with the other people who were involved in the accident. And, he looked like an ordinary old man. After the doctor did whatever he had to do, I tried to locate him to give him some money. Of course, I couldn't find him. And when I think back, I had the good fortune of having Swami himself there, I think. So Apad Bandhava is what I call him. He's a moksha pradayini, Apad Bandhava, he's Antaryami. As he says, Antad Bhahischa Tatsarvam Vyapya Narayana Sthita, right? He's inside, outside, everywhere he's there. So with that, I'll conclude. If you have any questions, if I know the answers, I'll answer you. Thank you. Thank you.
You have a reflection or knowledge of how your great grandmother came to know?
How she met him?
Yeah, how she came to know? You saw her Swami coming to her house.
Right. It was, originally through Krishna Swami. Krishna Swami had gone and gotten the Abdullah Baba to tell him, told him about Swami. And also Sakama. Sakama was in Baswangudi. She used to, Swami used to come to her house, and Sitama and Rajama used to go to their house. And also Nagamani Purnaya was related to my great grandmother. She comes from that Purnaya family, and there must have been some this also Sheshki Rao and Purnaya. So they went together everywhere. In fact, when Swami went to Hyderabad, in that group photo you might have seen Nagamani Purnaya also. So there was that Sakama, Nagamani Purnaya, and of course Krishna Swami's visit to Abdullah Baba. All of them kind of brought it together to go to. And Swami himself asked Sitama and Rajama to come to Puttaparthi when he met them in Sakama's house. Swami is very young. He was in his 20s, early 20s. Any other question? Sairam.
What I wanted to ask you was, you were saying that Swami was saying all those plants.
Yeah.
They say calling her Devi and all that, right?
Yeah.
So what was her? How did she relate, and how did she relate to that? She always related to him as a little Krishna. How did she relate?
Yeah, she related to him as a young boy, as far as I know. Of course, I was also very young. I couldn't see it, but from what I've heard from my parents and so on, she herself was a very spiritual lady, and she treated him with a lot of affection. And some of the older ladies, including Sakama and all, they treated him like a young boy. They made fun of him, made all kinds of mischief, and Swami himself was like, if you read Bhagavatam, there are all kinds of mischief that Krishna does, right? It's the same kind of thing that Swami used to do when he was young. He would go tell one person to make dosa, and he'll go and tell other person to make dosa. He'll eat dosa in the first person's and the second person's house first, and then tell the first person, "Arre, she made me to eat the dosa first." That kind of thing. So, in fact, if you read Bhagavatam, I tell you, you realize there is no question that Swami is avatar. It's the words he uses. You read Bhagavatam, some of the Uddhav Gita, as Brahma Stuti of Krishna. It is like there's no question. It's a Swami is avatar. It becomes clearer and clearer as you read the scriptures more. Of course, Swami has made it so amply obvious in all his grace to us, and we are all so fortunate. That's all I can say. We are all very, very blessed.
But she asked him, "Why you call me Devagiri when my name is Namagiri?"
I would think so. My own guess, and I may be totally wrong. See, Shirdi, when Swami narrated the story of Shirdi Sai Baba, he said the father's name was Ganga Bavadia and the mother's name was Devagiri Amma. So there may be some connection there, That's why he called her Devagiri.
Because I know of another instance, he would call Geeta's mother as Padmamma. Her name was Kamalamma. But he would always call her Padmamma.
I see.
So that's why I was asking.
So there must be some.
She would tell him also, Swami, my name is Kamala. He will say, no, I'm going to call you Padmamma. And when they got the house in 4th block, they wanted to name something, I think, related to the parent. So they said, oh, what to do? We want to do Kamala Nilaya. His mom is so smart. He said, this house is in a corner, so you have 2 entrances. One place you put Kamala Nilaya, one put. So cute. Thank you, Prabhakar. Saira.
Yes, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Prabhakar. It's a beautiful talk. Wish we could hear more experiences. And I think, listening to your story, I think Swami is working full time for you with all his accidents and saving you from. I'm sure he will give you his opinion, must have given you already, if not, about how he has to be there all the time. Between the accidents and lost luggage, I think half the Samarpan is on those topics. It's very interesting. But of course, you're born to a very legendary family. We all know that from history. So it's a wonderful thing. And, we'll continue another day with this talk because, Swami's talks are always so energetic and never ending, We thank you again for taking this opportunity to come at the last minute and do it for us. And also, Sister Rubina, one day we'd like to hear from your perspective, because coming from Pakistan with a Parsi background, and seeing Swami, because there's a lot of Parsis in Mumbai who are very, very close to Swami, right? So, I mean, it's not a surprise for us, but still it's good to see another perspective, from people who are not in the background to come in and talk. So we'll thank you. And once again, for coming here. And Mr. Krishnamurti Garu, who you know very well, we'd like him to come and felicitate you, please. Please do come here, Saira. Please. There. With a chair. Thank you. Now we'll do the Maharati and then we'll conclude. Saram. Swami